The Right Honourable Dame Patsy Reddy, Governor-General of New Zealand, and Sir David Gascoigne.
Tau mai nei te tō mai rangi tōna te whai, te atua tēnā tēnā koutou. Tātou e hui hui nei raro i tōna manaaki tauna. Āmene.
E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā iwi o ngā hoe whā. Tēnei aku mihi mahana ki a koutou. Kia ora tātou katoa. Nau mai, haere mai, rā ki te whare kawana. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings to you all and welcome to Government House. I specifically acknowledge our kuia, Mrs. Tiripawai Higgins, tēnā koe. It's a great pleasure to host this investiture ceremony and bring together 17 honour recipients, along with their family and friends, to recognise the contributions they have made to our country. As Governor-General, I have the authority and the privilege, on behalf of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of New Zealand, to hold an investiture ceremony for her and to confer the honours to which each recipient is entitled. Ladies and gentlemen, as each one is honoured, I invite you to join me in thanking and congratulating them for their service to our country. Hewitt Humphrey will now summon the recipients and read a citation for each one.
Your Excellency, to receive the honour of knighthood and the insignia of a Knight Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Sir Tim Shadbolt of Invercargill for services to local government and the community. Sir Tim Shadbolt is the longest-serving mayor in New Zealand and an inspirational leader for both Invercargill and the southern region. Sir Tim was first elected as Mayor of Waitemata City for 6 years. Then, in 1993, he was elected to serve as Mayor of Invercargill City until 1995. He was re-elected in 1998 and is now serving his 8th term in office. He campaigned for the zero-fee scheme at the Southland Institute of Technology, which encouraged youth to remain in the region or migrate south to study. This has led to an increase in the population and stimulated economic growth in Southland. 2 major new facilities, Stadium Southland and SIT Velodrome, were built during his mayoralty. The Splash Palace Aquatic Centre, the Invercargill Airport Terminal and the Civic Theatre have all been refurbished during his term in office. He's been a leading advocate for attracting overseas students, sister cities, Maori land rights, supporting the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter, the retention of Dunedin Hospital's neurological unit, and the recovery of Auckland Island pigs for medical research. Sir Tim has raised funds and performed in several feature films and reality television programs, and along with regular newspaper columns and other published works, he's made a significant contribution to raising Invercargill's profile and serving its citizens. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Professor Peter Crampton of Dunedin for services to education and health sciences. Peter Crampton is Pro-Vice-Chancellor in Health Sciences at the University of Otago. He established a Mirror on Society policy to ensure the university trains a health workforce that mirrors the society it serves. He was instrumental in setting up the Division of Health Sciences Pacific Strategy. Through the university, he supported health and education in the Pacific Islands. He co-developed the New Zealand Deprivation Index over 22 years, enabling a way to measure deprivation and socio-economic status to guide targeted support and improve outcomes across the country. He chaired the board behind the development of Te Kaika, the village, enabling the provision of innovative and responsive health, social and education services to the Dunedin community. Professor Crampton assisted in setting up Healthcare Aotearoa in the early 1990s. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Companion of the Queen's Service Order, Ms. Eleanor Bodger of Christchurch for services to seniors. Eleanor Bodger established ElderNet, an online database and directory of services for older people, their families, and those working in the aged care sector. ElderNet's industry blog and newsletter links readers to news, events, and insights affecting health, retirement, and aged care choices, while encouraging participation in local communities. Through Care Publications, Mrs. Bodger published a series of free handbooks for older people who preferred to receive information in printed form. Following the Christchurch earthquakes, ElderNet commissioned a report into the aged care sector response to the emergency. Mrs. Bodger helped establish the Linwood Community Resource Centre and co-created the annual LIFE, Linwood Youth Festival Experience. She's a volunteer with the New Brighton Pier and Foreshore Society Association and a panel member of ACC's Customer Advisory Panel for Older People. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of an Officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Dr. David Crum of Christchurch for services to dentistry. David Crum is CEO and former President of the New Zealand Dental Association, NZDA. He's helped strengthen the NZDA and enabled it to develop and implement public health programs to deliver services to disadvantaged New Zealanders. This has included the establishment of free dental days throughout New Zealand. He's the New Zealand Case Manager for Dental Protection Limited. He's invested his time into mentoring young dentists, supporting colleagues in their day-to-day practice, and helping patients and dentists when complaints have arisen. He's been president of the Australasian section of the International College of Dentists, chairman of the World Dental Federation's World Dental Congress and Education Committee, and a member of the Global Child Dental Health Task Force. Dr. Crum has served on several educational and research trusts. Ms. Mary-Ann Tippler of Picton for services to mathematics education. Mary-Ann Tippler is New Zealand's leading author of mathematics textbooks and teacher support resources for primary, intermediate and secondary schools. She's produced more books and teacher files than any other educational author in New Zealand, and her textbooks are used extensively throughout New Zealand, with at least 85% of schools having used them over the years. She's written 3 major series for New Zealand: National Curriculum Mathematics, New Zealand Curriculum Mathematics, and NZ Curriculum Mathematics Connecting All Strands. Ms. Tippler was Senior Publisher at Cambridge University Press in the United Kingdom and wrote mathematics textbooks for UK secondary schools and Australian primary schools. She's utilised best practice methodology from curriculums in the United Kingdom and Australia to enhance her writing for New Zealand. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mrs. Vaine Ariora of Auckland for services to the Cook Islands community and sport. Vaine Ariora was involved with the Cook Islands Sports Association and served on the executive committee of the PIC Netball Club and the Cook Islands Sports Club. She was a coach and player with the Manukau Netball Club. She's been treasurer, vice president, and president of the Mangere Otahuhu Netball Centre. She's president of the Auckland Cook Islands Sports Association and Pacific Challenge Netball. She was secretary of Takitimu Cultural and Arts Society. Mrs. Ariora is involved with Mangere Cook Island Elder Day Care and is Heritage Culture Assistant Leader for Art and Crafts with the Cook Island Development Agency, New Zealand. Mr. Paul Ellis of Christchurch for services to music. Paul Ellis is National President of the Royal School of Church Music New Zealand, RSCMNZ, and has organised or directed many RSCMNZ residential choir schools. He's promoted and driven the Voice for Life educational programs in New Zealand and Australia. He's contributed to more than 50 years as a choral conductor, organist and director of music with Christchurch schools and churches and as a locum at New Zealand cathedrals. He's taught special classes for children with intellectual disabilities. Mr. Ellis has been president of the New Zealand Association of Organists and has chaired the Christchurch Organists Association and the Organ Fest. Mr. Barry Gardner of Christchurch for services to sport, particularly squash. Barry Gardner has been President of Squash New Zealand and Vice President of Squash Canterbury. He was a Senior Selector for Squash New Zealand, Senior Men, Women, and Selector Convener for Southern District Squash. He served on the World Squash Disciplinary Committee for Oceania. He was Chair of the 2008 World Squash Masters and Assistant Director of the 1994 World Squash Junior Championships. He's been Secretary of the West Coast Cricket Association and the West Coast Basketball Association and Chairman of the South Canterbury Tennis Association. He's coached rugby and squash and has been a representative player across multiple sports. Mr. Gardner has been squash world champion in 3 categories. Mrs. Biddy Harford of Lower Hutt for services to palliative care. Biddy Harford has been employed with Te Omanga Hospice since 1988 and has been Chief Executive of the hospice since 2000. As Chief Executive, she's led Te Omanga Hospice through the demolition of its existing building, which was found to be earthquake-prone after the Seddon earthquake of 2013, and the fundraising of $10 million to replace the building. The rebuild is expected to be completed by 2019. She's a board member of Hospice New Zealand and has served as Deputy Chair and Chair. Mrs. Harford has served as Chair of a number of local and regional palliative care groups. Mrs. Margaret Curvelis of Palmerston North for services to local government and education. Margaret Curvelis was the Mayor of the Manawatu District Council and led the advancement of several major projects. She founded and was inaugural Chair of Talent Central Charitable Trust, currently chairs the New Zealand Rural Games Trust and Te Manawa Family Services Trust, and is a trustee of the Central Energy Trust. She previously taught at schools around New Zealand and was head of music at Freiburg High School. She became the music advisor at Massey University and the national facilitator for music in the implementation of NCEA. Mrs. Curvelis was the inaugural Chief Executive of the New Zealand Teachers' Council and is currently Chief Executive of Talent Central. Mrs. Fay Looney of New Plymouth for services to the arts, particularly photography. Fay Looney has had a long career in photography, has published 6 New Zealand landscape books, and was the first woman president of the New Zealand Institute of Photography. A number of her images were licensed to Tourism New Zealand to promote the country internationally. As a sports photographer, she was accredited to the Barcelona Olympics and several World Equestrian Championships. She's a founding member of the Oakura Arts Trail, which attracts thousands of visitors to coastal Taranaki artist studios. She established the studio gallery Koru on her home property in Oakura, and the city-based not-for-profit gallery Koru on Devon Art Space and Gallery. Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, Mrs. Barbara Brinsley of Dunedin for services to art curation. Barbara Brinsley is a long-standing member of the Healthcare Otago Charitable Trust's Art Advisory Committee, AAC, and curates the Dunedin Hospital Art Collection on a voluntary basis. The art collection was established in 1972 and has grown to comprise more than 2,200 individual works. Mrs. Brinsley has initiated fundraising activities for major purchases and repairs. In her role as Aesthetics Coordinator for the Southern District Health Board, she's acquired additional responsibilities. A passionate supporter of prominent Dunedin and New Zealand fashion designers, Mrs. Brinsley sponsors the Barbara Brinsley Carpe Diem Award at the ID International Emerging Designers Awards. Mr. Douglas Hutchinson of Hawera for services to conservation and the community. Douglas Hutchinson has been the driving force of the Knowles Lake Development Project, obtaining support and financial backing and coordinating community group activity. He's been inaugural Secretary-Treasurer of the Knowles Lake Walkway Charitable Trust. He volunteered as caretaker at Hawera Christian School for 3 years. He's Secretary-Treasurer of the Ethel Gray Charitable Trust of New Zealand, formed to promote immunisation, particularly against polio. He helped publish a collection of stories from Taranaki polio sufferers. Mr. Hutchinson is currently Deputy Chairman of Trinity Home and Hospital in Hawera and held several leadership positions with the Hawera Rotary Club. Mr. Dick Mitchell of Whanganui for services to the community and music. Dick Mitchell joined Whanganui Rotary Club in 1980 and has been president and part of the Rotary Youth Leadership Committee. He's been involved with Rotary reading in schools for 14 years. He was involved with the early development of Kowhai Park through Whanganui JCs. He's the longest-serving member of the Whanganui Male Choir and has held various leadership roles. He's a member of the Whanganui Tramping Club and the Whanganui branch of the Motor Trade Association, of which he was vice president and president. Mr. Mitchell was a key organiser of the annual MTA Whanganui Golf Tournament. Mr. Derek Tauriki of Hastings for services to the Cook Islands community. Derek Tauriki is president of the Cook Islands Community Hall Society in Flaxmere. He steered the society to gain charitable status and has overseen fundraising efforts to maintain and upgrade the hall facilities. He's secretary of Pārmetua Cook Islands Group, a social group for seniors, and was a driving force behind its establishment. He leads Pārmetua weekly exercise program and organises an annual trip out of Hastings for the group. He's organised sports weekends for children in the Cook Islands community. Mr. Tauriki is an elder in the Cook Islands Christian Church in Flaxmere. Mrs. Alison Vautier of Waikanai for services to the community. Alison Vautier founded and served as president of the Waikanai Cameo, that's Come and Meet Each Other Society, which was established for isolated people to drop in and socialise with light refreshments offered every weekday. Social activities have been organised and Justice of the Peace services have been offered at the centre. Mrs. Vautier obtained supplies, found suitable locations, organised leases, maintained a roster of volunteers, and engaged in fundraising. She's also been a member of Country Women's Institute and Waikanai Community Health Group, president of Waikanai Probus Club, and founder of the Friends of the Hospital Group in Pahiatua. Ms. Elsie Walkinshaw of Christchurch for services to the community. Elsie Walkinshaw delivered food parcels for Methodist Mission and was later employed as a budget advisor. She volunteered at Christchurch Women's Refuge before working full-time in a safe house. She helped establish Turning Points Trust to provide budget advice and advocacy services for people in Christchurch East. She was a budget advisor and advocate with Super Grands and was employed in advocacy and community assistance with Compassion Trust. In the aftermath of the Christchurch earthquakes, she provided assistance to quake-affected families. Ms. Walkinshaw is a volunteer telephone counsellor with Lifeline and a volunteer advocate and debt management advisor with Freedom Trust. Your Excellency, the investiture is concluded.
An investiture ceremony is the most important event I hold on behalf of Her Majesty, the Queen of New Zealand. It allows me, as Governor-General, to recognise and thank an extraordinary group of people on behalf of all New Zealanders. By using their talents to make ours a better society, whether by service to their communities, or by their leadership in diverse fields of endeavour, or their commitment to excellence in their field of expertise, our recipients have set a fine example to others, encouraging them in their own endeavours. To the recipients, it has been a privilege to hear your stories today. You have demonstrated determination, commitment, and compassion in your daily lives. In your own way, each of you has helped make New Zealand a better place to live. In some cases, your influence and the positive impact of your work has extended beyond our shores. Your actions and the stories we've heard reflect the spirit of the words of Nelson Mandela when he said, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead." Your contributions have enriched the cultural, social and economic fabric of Aotearoa New Zealand. Please wear your insignia with pride, knowing that your communities appreciate and value all that you do and are inspired by your example. On behalf of the Queen of New Zealand and all the people of New Zealand, I congratulate you on your achievements and I thank you for all your service to our country. Kia ora hui hui tātou katoa. Ladies and gentlemen, that almost brings to a close the formal part of our ceremony today. But before we break for refreshments, I'd ask you to stand and we'll sing our national anthem in Māori and in English.